So now our topic Harshavardhana. Harshavardhana was the last Hindu ruler of India. Because if you see, before Harshavardhana, Guptas. After Guptas, Harshavardhana there. After Harshavardhana, the Indian administration, it is under the control of Rajputs. That's why no Rajput king ruled total India. But it has after Harshavardhana, North India became, it has so many splits. It became Rajput dynasties. That's why there is no any other Hindu king on Delhi throne. He was only the last Hindu ruler on Delhi throne. This is called Harshavardhana. So Harshavardhana, he born in 590 AD. He was born in 590 AD. His dynasty is called Pushyabhuti. Pushyabhuti dynasty. It is called Pushyabhuti dynasty. Okay, and Pushyabhuti was the origin of Pushyabhuti dynasty. He is also called origin of Pushyabhuti dynasty. So he killed last ruler of Gupta dynasty. He killed last ruler of Gupta dynasty, that is Vishnu Gupta. Vishnu Gupta is ruled by Pushyabhuti. So Pushyabhuti, on the name of Pushyabhuti, the dynasty of Harshavardhana, it became Pushyabhuti dynasty. Okay, after Pushyabhuti we have Adityavardhana. Adityavardhana, also called, this is dynasty also called Vardhana dynasty. After Adityavardhana we have Prabhakaravardhana. Prabhakaravardhana. So after Adityavardhana, Prabhakaravardhana became the ruler. So Prabhakaravardhana capital was Sthaneshwara. So Sthaneshwara, it is capital of Prabhakaravardhana, Sthaneshwara. So this Prabhakaravardhana has two sons. Prabhakaravardhana has two sons. One is Rajyavardhana and Harshavardhana. Rajyavardhana and Harshavardhana. These are the two sons of Prabhakaravardhana. And he has one daughter, that is Rajasri. That is Rajasri. So just I want to say, Pushyabhuti established Pushyabhuti dynasty, and the first ruler in that Pushyabhuti dynasty, that is Adityavardhana. Adityavardhana, after Adityavardhana, this Pushyabhuti dynasty is ruled by Prabhakaravardhana. Prabhakaravardhana is first strongest. Prabhakaravardhana was first strongest. He has the title, Prabhakaravardhana has the title Huna Harikesari. He has title Una Harikesari. So Una Harikesari, he has title Una Harikesari. So Prabhakaravardhana ruling this Pushyabhuti dynasty, is capital Sthaneshwara, also called Thaneshwaram. Sthaneshwara, also called Thaneshwara. Nearby Delhi surrounding area. Delhi and Ajmer, Jaipur surrounding, back side of Ajmer, upper side of Ajmer and west side of Delhi. This is Sthaneshwaram. Okay, so he has two sons, Rajyavardhana and Harshavardhana. And he has one daughter, that is Rajasri. You know, meanwhile, you see, whenever Prabhakaravardhana was ruling this dynasty, the second attacking, Hunas attacked on this Pushyabhuti dynasty. Hunas, that is Mihirakuludu. The Hunas invader, that is Mihirakuludu, Toramanudu. These are the important invaders. They attacked on India in the period of Prabhakaravardhana, that is Toramanudu and Mihirakuludu. Both are attacked on Pushyabhuti dynasty. So then Prabhakaravardhana sent his two daughters. So before that, Prabhakaravardhana married his daughter Rajasri with Gruhavarma. He married his daughter with Gruhavarma. Who was Gruhavarma? He was the ruler of Maukari dynasty, Maukari kingdom. Their capital Kanauj. Gruhavarma capital was Kanauj. He married Rajasri. Okay. Prabhakaravardhana has two sons, Rajyavardhana and Harshavardhana, one daughter Rajasri. Rajasri married with Gruhavarma. He was king of Maukari kingdom. Their capital Kanauj. So neighbor kingdoms. This is a Pushyabhuti dynasty and Maukari dynasty, both are the neighbor kingdoms. So meanwhile, Prabhakaravardhana, when he was ruling, that kingdom is attacked by Hunas. Northwest side of this Pushyabhuti dynasty attacked by Hunas. That Hunas are called Mihirakuludu and Toramanudu. Okay. Whenever they attacked, Rajavardhana, Harshavardhana both went to face attackings of Hunas. Both sons went to face the attackings of invasions of Hunas. But in that time, Prabhakaravardhana was died. Whenever the sons they went to there, so meanwhile Prabhakaravardhana was died. Whenever Prabhakaravardhana was died, so one more neighbor king, so Malwa king, that is Devagupta. Malwa king Devagupta attacked on this Pushyabhuti dynasty. Are you understanding? Okay. So both the sons went to face Hunas attacking. Meanwhile, Prabhakaravardhana was died in the kingdom. Whenever he was died, one more neighbor king, Devagupta, Malwa ruler, he attacked on Pushyabhuti dynasty. Then Guruvarma, he came to, actually he was there in Pushyabhuti dynasty, Sthaneshwara. Why? Because he was died. So that's why Rajasri and Guruvarma came to Sthaneshwara for the funeral celebrations of Prabhakaravarma. Unfortunately, what happened? So Devagupta, he attacked on Sthaneshwara. So he helped by Gauda Shashanka. Gauda Shashanka. Who was Gauda Shashanka? He helped to Devagupta. He was ruler of Gauda kingdom. This Gauda Shashanka, he was ruler of Gauda kingdom. He helped to Devagupta, Malwa king. So he attacked on Sthaneshwara. Then Guruvarma is killed by Devagupta. And they kidnapped Rajasri. Devagupta kidnapped Rajasri. Situation, Prabhakaravardhana, he was died. Sorry, Prabhakaravardhana was died. Guruvarma also died. And Rajasri, she kidnapped by Devagupta. So both the brothers, Rajavardhana and Harshavardhana, they were in the attackings of Hunas. So here they got the information and they came back to Sthaneshwara. When they came back to Sthaneshwara having total damage. So here Rajavardhana, he went to get back Rajasri. Rajavardhana, he went to get back Rajasri. He went to attack the Malwa kingdom. He killed Devagupta. So Rajavardhana killed Devagupta. He was killed by Rajavardhana. So Rajavardhana killed Devagupta, but he was not found Rajasri. Rajasri was not there. Okay. So he coming back to Sthaneshwara. Rajavardhana coming back to Sthaneshwara. While coming back to Sthaneshwara, Shashanka, Gauda Shashanka attacked on Rajavardhana and he killed Rajavardhana. That's why this is the situation. Before becoming the ruler, Harshavardhana, before becoming ruler of Sthaneshwara or Pushyabhuti dynasty, the situation was very critical. Father was died, brother-in-law also died, brother died, and sister was kidnapped. Then Harshavardhana became the ruler of Pushyabhuti dynasty. Harshavardhana, he became the ruler of Pushyabhuti dynasty at the age of 16 years. At the age of 16 years, that means in 606, at the age of 16 years, Harshavardhana became the ruler of Pushyabhuti dynasty, capital Sthaneshwara. Whenever Harshavardhana became the ruler, the situation was very critical because father was died, brother brother-in-law also died and sister was kidnapped. That's why at the age of 16 years, that means in 606, Harshavardhana became the ruler of Pushyabhuti dynasty. So in 606, at the age of 16 years, Harshavardhana became the ruler of Pushyabhuti dynasty. So what are the sources? What are the sources of Harshavardhana history? Okay, here we have two kinds of sources. One is inscriptions. So inscriptions and books. We have two kinds of sources for history of Harshavardhana. Okay, so in inscriptions we have some inscriptions. First inscription is that Sompeta inscription. Sompeta inscription and Madhuban inscription and Banskera inscriptions. So these three inscriptions by Harshavardhana. These three inscriptions laid by Harshavardhana. So Sompeta inscription, Madhuban inscription and Banskera inscription. These three inscriptions laid by Harshavardhana. So these are explaining, or these are the sources of Harshavardhana history. And one more most important inscription. So one more most important inscription, that is Aihole inscription. Aihole inscription. This is the most important inscription we should remember. Aihole inscription. Aihole inscription laid by Ravikirti. It is laid by Ravikirti. Aihole inscription laid by Ravikirti. Who was Ravikirti? Ravikirti was the army chief of second Pulakeshi. Ravikirti was army chief of second Pulakeshi. So Ravikirti laid Aihole inscription. You know, Aihole inscription is describing second Pulakeshi defeated Harshavardhana on the bank of Narmada river. Okay, this is the most important point regarding Aihole inscription and regarding Harshavardhana history. That is, according to Aihole inscription, second Pulakeshi defeated Harshavardhana on the bank of Narmada river. This is describing by Aihole inscription. Aihole inscription laid by Ravikirti. Ravikirti was army chief of second Pulakeshi. So these are the inscriptions for the history of Harshavardhana. Sompeta inscription, Madhuban inscription, Banskera inscription and Aihole inscription. So there are some books for the history of Harshavardhana. Okay, what are the books? You see, basically Harshavardhana also wrote 3 dramas. So Harshavardhana wrote 3 dramas. That 3 dramas also sources for Harshavardhana history. In that books we have, so Priyadarshini, you write, it is most important, Priyadarshini, because related to high school history, Priyadarshini, what are the books of, they can ask the question, what are the books of Harshavardhana? So Priyadarshini, Naganandam and Ratnavali. So these 3 dramas of Harshavardhana. He wrote these 3 books, 3 dramas, Priyadarshini, Naganandam, Ratnavali. These are the Sanskrit books. Okay, and one more here, Banabhattu, also called Banudu. He was in the period of Harshavardhana. Banabhattu, he was in the period of Harshavardhana. He wrote Kadambari, Harshacharitra and Parvati Parinayam. So these 3 books are written by Banabhattu. So these 3 books also explaining about the information or history of Harshavardhana. So Banabhattu, he wrote these 3 books. So these books, not only these books, and we have 2 more important persons, that is Bhavabhuti. Bhavabhuti also in the period of Harshavardhana. Bhavabhuti. So Bhavabhuti, he wrote Uttara Ramacharita. Bhavabhuti, he wrote Uttara Ramacharita. So that is Bhavabhuti. It is also explaining about Harshavardhana history. Bhavabhuti also, he was in the period of Harshavardhana. And one more important person, Bhartruhari. One more important person, Bhartruhari. So Bhartruhari, he wrote Subhashita Ratnavali. Subhashita Ratnavali. He wrote Subhashita Ratnavali. Bhartruhari. So it is a moral book, Niti Shastramu. So he wrote Subhashita Ratnavali. So it is a famous Sanskrit book that is Subhashita Ratnavali. So it is written by Bhartruhari. So all these books, Bhavabhuti, Uttara Ramacharita, Bhartruhari, Subhashita Ratnavali, and Banabhattu books and Harshavardhana books. All these books are explaining about the information or history of Harshavardhana. So Harshavardhana, he has a lot of sources for his history. So we are knowing history because of all these books and inscriptions. So in 606, Harshavardhana became the ruler at the age of 16 years. Okay. Already I told you, when he became the ruler, the situation was very critical in that country, in that kingdom. So Rajavardhana, brother of Harshavardhana, is died. Gruhavarma, brother-in-law of Harshavardhana, is died. Prabhakaravardhana, father of Harshavardhana, also died. And his sister Rajasri, she was kidnapped. So now Harshavardhana wanted to find his sister first. So he has taken the help of Bhaskaravarma. He has taken the help of Bhaskaravarma. Bhaskaravarma was the ruler of Kamarupa kingdom. So he was ruler of Kamarupa. Kamarupa means it is right now it is Assam. Kamarupa ruler was Bhaskaravarma. So he has taken Bhaskaravarma help and he was searching for his sister Rajasri. But actually Rajasri, she is trying to suicide. She wants to jump in Narmada river. But suddenly Harshavardhana went there, he caught his sister and he saved his sister. That's why Harshavardhana, he saved his sister. And what he has done, so he joined two kingdoms. So Maukari kingdom and Pushyabhuti kingdom. So both are attached by Harshavardhana and the capital is changed from Sthaneshwara to Kanauj. The capital is changed from Sthaneshwara to Kanauj. So now Harshavardhana, capital Kanauj, he was ruling both the areas. That is Maukari kingdom and also Pushyabhuti kingdom. So up to 5 years, Harshavardhana attacked and he wanted to expand the dynasty, expand the boundaries of the dynasty. So within 5 years, he expanded the dynasty boundaries. That's why up to 5 years he has not taken any kind of rest. So after 5 years, he concentrated on the administration and ruling. Okay, you see, with the help of Bhaskaravarma, he also killed Gauda Shashanka. You know, who was helped to Devagupta of Malwa king. Okay, because of Gauda Shashanka, he killed Rajavardhana also. That's why he has taken revenge on Gauda Shashanka by the help of Bhaskaravarma. So Shashanka is died and he extended the dynasty total North India under the control of Harshavardhana right now. So he was concentrating on the administration and also on political system. So basically Harshavardhana was Hindu. Basically Harshavardhana was Hindu. He was devotee of Lord Shiva. He was devotee of Lord Shiva. So what are the titles? What are the titles of Harshavardhana? What are the titles of Harshavardhana? He has some titles. That is, first one, he has a title Shiladitya. So Shiladitya, he has a title Shiladitya. And third Ashoka, he has a title third Ashoka. And one more title he has Uttara Padadishwara. Uttara Padadishwara. So he has this three title, Shiladitya and third Ashoka and Uttara Padadishwara. We should remember Shiladitya title because Shiladitya title is a very famous title, important title we should remember. So Harshavardhana has three titles, Shiladitya, third Ashoka. Third Ashoka means here you see, first Ashoka in Maurya dynasty, second Ashoka it is called Kanishka. That's why he is called third Ashoka because he has taken Buddhism and he strived for the development of Buddhism in India. That's why he has the title third Ashoka and Uttara Padadishwara. Okay, according to Aivol inscription, he mentioned as Uttara Padadishwara. That's why Uttara Padadishwara means total North India under the control of Harshavardhana. That's why he has Uttara Padadishwara. These are the titles having by Harshavardhana. You know, in the period of Harshavardhana, Yuan Tsang. So in the period of Harshavardhana, Yuan Tsang. So Yuan Tsang visited Harshavardhana period. So Yuan Tsang visited Harshavardhana court. So Yuan Tsang is from China. You know, you remember second pilgrim came to India from China, that is Yuan Tsang. So Yuan Tsang, he came from China. He was a student of Nalanda University. So he studied in Nalanda University. That's why he visited Harshavardhana court and he preached Buddhism to Harshavardhana. He preached Buddhism to Harshavardhana. That's why earlier Harshavardhana was a Hindu. He has taken Hinduism, he born in Hinduism, but because of Yuan Tsang, he has taken Buddhism. And also his sister Rajastri also forced Harshavardhana to embrace Buddhism. That's why because of Yuan Tsang as well as because of Rajastri, Harshavardhana has taken Buddhism. So you see, here we have to have one book. Yuan Tsang has written the great book C.U. Ki. C.U. Ki. He wrote this book C.U. Ki. Yuan Tsang wrote a book C.U. Ki. C.U. Ki is explaining about Harshavardhana history and his political history. So this is the Yuan Tsang book C.U. Ki. You know the creed of Harshavardhana. So what was the creed of Harshavardhana? You know, according to C.U. Ki, Harshavardhana conducted after taking Buddhism. So after taking Buddhism, Harshavardhana conducted 6 Mahamoksha Parishats. So Mahamoksha Parishat. Mahamoksha Parishat. Mahamoksha Parishat. He conducted Mahamoksha Parishat at Prayaga. Mahamoksha Parishat means it is also known as the World Religious Parliament or World Religious Conference. So he conducted World Religious Conferences at Prayaga. That's why he conducted 6 these Mahamoksha Parishats. So that means 6 means 5 years, once for 5 years. So every 5 years he used to conduct these Mahamoksha Parishats meetings. That's why he conducted 6 meetings. That's why 30 years. So he conducted 6 meetings. So in that 6 meetings, in that Mahamoksha Parishat, in that meetings, he used to donate charity. So he used to donate all the things along with his dress also. So that's why he conducted, Harshavardhana conducted Mahamoksha Parishats in Prayaga for every 5 years. He conducted 6 Mahamoksha Parishats. He covered total North India, Harshavardhana under the control of North India total under the control of Harshavardhana, but he concentrated. He wanted to capture South India also. So he was coming to South India to defeat South Indian kingdoms. But you see, unfortunately, South Indian king, second Pulakeshi. So South Indian king, second Pulakeshi. He was ruling South India, second Pulakeshi. He was ruling South India. That's why Maharashtra, Andhra, Karnataka, all the areas under the control of second Pulakeshi. Yes. So Harshavardhana, he wanted to attack on South India because total North India under the control of Harshavardhana. So he wanted to occupy South India also. That's why when he was coming to South Indian attacking, South India was ruling by second Pulakesi. South India was ruling by second Pulakesi. Especially, so Maharashtra, Karnataka and Andhra area, that means Andhra Tamil Nadu area, Andhra Telangana area, these are under the control of Pulakeshi. So Pulakeshi, he was Western Chalukya ruler. He was Western Chalukya ruler, second Pulakeshi. So Western Chalukya means they are also called Badami Chalukya. Badami Chalukya, also called Western Chalukya. So second Pulakeshi was strongest of Badami Chalukyas or Western Chalukyas. So he was strongest. Okay. So Yuan-Sang also visited his court. Yuan-Sang also visited his court, and he described about the greatness of second Pulakeshi. And second Pulakeshi court visited by Khusru, the Persian pilgrim, he visited his court also, second Pulakeshi. That's why whenever Harshavardhana ruling North India, in South India, second Pulakeshi was ruling. That's why second Pulakeshi, that means South India, especially Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra, both are the areas, they became very strong under the control of second Pulakeshi. That's why here below Vindhya Satpura mountains, second Pulakeshi, he was ruling this area. Now Harshavardhana, he was coming to attack on South Indian kingdom, but second Pulakeshi, what he has done, he started the moving towards Harshavardhana. That's why Harshavardhana, he started towards moving towards Harshavardhana. So both they met at Narmada river. So Narmada. So this is called the Battle of Narmada. This is called the Battle of Narmada. It is the war between Harshavardhana and second Pulakeshi on the bank of Narmada. So here in this war, Harshavardhana was defeated by second Pulakeshi. So second Pulakeshi defeated Harshavardhana. You understand what a greatness of, what a mightiness of Pulakeshi. Because Pulakeshi, he was king only, not his emperor. He was only king. But Harshavardhana was the ruler, he was the emperor. He was the emperor. But second Pulakeshi, king. But who is greater? That is second, Harshavardhana was the greater. That's why he was defeated by second Pulakeshi, a emperor defeated by the king. This is the incident is happened. That's why because of this war, we are knowing the importance of second Pulakeshi. So in the hands of second Pulakeshi, Harshavardhana was defeated. So Harshavardhana defeated by second Pulakeshi, actually Harshavardhana is described, this war also described in Aihole inscription. Aihole. Aihole means nearby Badami in Karnataka. So there is an inscription in Aihole. This is laid by Ravikirti. This is laid by Ravikirti. Ravikirti was army chief and minister of second Pulakeshi. That's why Ravikirti laid Aihole inscription. Aihole inscription is describing Harshavardhana Lokottara Padadishwara or Uttara Padadishwara. Lokottara Padadishwara, also called Uttara Padadishwara. So this is the title described in Aihole inscription. So this Aihole inscription is explaining about the war defeating of Harshavardhana. So anyhow, so Harshavardhana was defeated and went back to Kanauj. So in 647, Harshavardhana was died. So because of this reason, because of the death of Harshavardhana, total Pushyabhuti dynasty, it was declined. But last ruler Yashovarma, in the Pushyabhuti dynasty, the last ruler Yashovarma, so he was the last ruler. But anyhow, in the period of Yashovarma, total Pushyabhuti dynasty is closed. But Harshavardhana was the great ruler. Among the Indian great rulers, Harshavardhana was one of the ruler. So, the administration system of Harshavardhana as it is followed by Gupta's administration. There is no other main important regarding these information administration, but they followed, Harshavardhana followed as it is Gupta's administration. And in Harshavardhana period we have the most important writers, Banabhattu, Bhartruhari, Bhavabhuti. These three writers were in the period of Harshavardhana. So Harshavardhana great thing was, he strived for the development of Nalanda University. He strived for the development of Nalanda University. So he donated 100 villages. He donated 100 villages for the development of Nalanda University. You know, in the period of Harshavardhana, Nalanda University has a big name, it is a popular name, because throughout the world, so many students used to come to Nalanda University and they want to study here only Nalanda University. That's why in the period of Harshavardhana, Nalanda University became very popular. It's a popular university, and you know, for the seat, getting the seat in Nalanda University, they conducted entrance test. In the period of Harshavardhana, conducted entrance test for the seat of Nalanda University. That's why we should remember in whose period, the competitive test or entrance test is conducted. That is Harshavardhana period. For the getting seat in Nalanda University, we should write the entrance test. That's why here they introduced it. So near about 15,000 students were studying in the period of Harshavardhana in Nalanda University. So 1,000 faculty, 1,000 lecturers. What you are understanding? So 1:15. So 1 lecturer for 15 students. You understand what is the greatness of Nalanda University. So unfortunately, later Nalanda University is damaged by Muslim attackers. But anyhow, so Harshavardhana strived for the development of Nalanda University. But he followed as it is the political and administration of that people. You know, Harshavardhana also prohibited sati. Harshavardhana also prohibited sati. He strived for the prohibition of sati, abolishment of sati. Why? Because whenever his father died, so Prabhakara Vardhana, his father, whenever he was died, so his mother, Yashomati, Harshavardhana mother, Yashomati, so she also died in sati. That time Harshavardhana cried a lot. So Harshavardhana, he cried very much. Because of that reason, so in front of Harshavardhana, his mother was died. Father died, along with father, mother also died in sati. That's why Harshavardhana, he felt up very bad. That's why he wanted to abolish sati. He strived for the abolishment of sati also. So this is the information regarding Harshavardhana. We should remember the books of Harshavardhana. Regarding important points, so we should remember the books of Harshavardhana. 3, these are called Natakas: Naganandamu, Priyadarshini, Ratnavali. These 3, this is the information regarding Harshavardhana. But you see, after Harshavardhana, in North India, totally political uncertainty. That is called the era of uncertainty. So Asthiratvam, Uttara Bharatdeshamlo Harshavardhana tarvata totalga asthirata vachesindi. That means North India has split. It has so many splits among the Rajputs. This is also called the era of Rajputs, also called the split of uncertainty age of North India or Indian history. So after Harshavardhana, we have uncertainty, the period of uncertainty. Then the Arab invasions and Muslim invasions are started after Harshavardhana ruling. Whenever Harshavardhana dynasty is declined, then in North India, it is under the control of Rajputs. So Rajputs means here, the number of Rajputs ruled North India. So in the period of Rajputs, total North India has the split. That's why the number of Rajputs, for example, Chauhans, Gahadwalas, Solankis, Waghelas, and Pratiharas. So these kind of Rajputs ruled North India, but these Rajputs having rivalry among them. Because of that ununity, so because of lack of unity, it's became the way to invasions of Arabs and Turks. That's why, so because lack of unity, North India is attacked by or invaded by Arabs and Turks. This is called Muslim invasions also. So Arabs and Turks. So Arabs means who came from Arabia area, Arab area, they are called Arabs. Who came from Turkey area, they are called Turks. Both are Muslims. This is called Muslim invasions. It is called Muslim invasions. So from 712 to 1206, this is the Arab and Turks invasions. That's why this is called Islam effect. Islam effect or Muslim invasions on India. So there are three people attacked on India. Three people attacked on India. First Muslim person who attacked on India, who was the person attacked on India first, that is Muhammad bin Qasim. So first one, Muhammad bin Qasim. So Muhammad bin Qasim, first one. He was we will have the question, who was first Muslim person attacked, and this is not a ruler. He is not a ruler, just a warrior, just a person. So Muhammad bin Qasim attacked on India first, and this is from Arab countries. And next to Ghazni. So next person Ghazni. So Muhammad Ghazni or Ghazni Muhammad. So Muhammad Ghazni attacked on India. He is the second person. He is from Turkey, also called Turkish. And Muhammad Ghori. He is from Turkish. That's why total 3 Muslim people attacked on India. So one by one, first one Muhammad bin Qasim and Muhammad Ghazni and Muhammad Ghori. These are the 3 Muslim attackers on India. So what are the attackings? What are the reasons? We have to learn, we have to study about that invasions. The first attacker or invader of Muslim, that is Muhammad bin Qasim. He attacked on India in 712. He attacked on India in 712. So he was a Muslim. He was the first Muslim attacker on India. You know, the Islam, who follow the Islam, they are called Muslims, but they came from different areas. For example, if they come from Arabia, they are called Arabs. If they come from Turkey, they are called Turkish. If they come from Persia, they are called Persians. If they come from Afghanistan, they are called Afghanis. That's why, but totally they are Muslims. But they came to India from different areas. Because of that areas, we are calling them on the name of area. That's why. So this is Muslim people. They attacked on India, Muhammad bin Qasim, 712. So what was the reason to attack on India? What was the reason? So you see, he attacked on India first on Sindh state. He attacked on India, Sindh state. The ruler of Sindh state, Daher. The ruler of Sindh state is called Daher. Okay, in 712, Muhammad bin Qasim attacked on Sindh. The ruler was Daher. This is a Hindu dynasty. Hindu dynasty. He is Brahman. Daher was Brahman. Okay, Daher was Brahman. He attacked on India. That is first state attacked by Muslims. That is Sindhu. Ruler was Daher. He was Hindu Brahman. Okay, so what was Muhammad bin Qasim? He is not a king ruler. Just he was a nephew of Khalifa second Khalifa Umar, so also called Walid. So Umar. So Khalifa Umar nephew was Muhammad bin Qasim. He was nephew of Khalifa Umar. Okay, he just Muhammad bin Qasim has 17 years old. When he attacked on India, just he has 17 years old. Okay, that is Muhammad bin Qasim. So what was the reason? Why he attacked on the Sindhu state? The reason was, you see, the reason was Persian ruler Al-Azaz. Persian ruler was Al-Azaz. So Persian ruler Al-Azaz was getting the spices from Sri Lanka. Okay, the Persian, you know, what was the birthplace of biryani? What was the birthplace of biryani? Persia. Biryani born in Persia, developed in Hyderabad. That's why, so that biryani compulsory, the spices will be there in the biryani. That's why Persian ruler Al-Azaz, he was getting the spices from Sri Lanka. Okay, but what happened, you know, whenever the spices boats reached to Dewar seaport, they are called Dewal seaport. So that is called Dewal seaport. Whenever the spices boats reach to Dewal seaport, that spices boats are robbed by some local thieves. So local thieves, they robbed these spices boats. So where it was robbed? So at Dewal seaport. Dewal seaport apart from Sindhu state. Okay, Dewal seaport apart from Sindhu state. That Sindhu state was ruling by Daher. Okay, Al-Azaz, he informed to Daher what is the response. So Daher, he has not responded to Al-Azaz. He neglected. He sent the message. So you are the responsible to that robbery. That's why you recover all the spices to me. But Al-Azaz sent a message like this. But Daher is not accepted. He refused his order. That's why he has given the complaint to Khalifa. Khalifa Umar, so also called Walid, Khalifa Walid. So he sent his nephew to attack on Sindhu state. That's why his nephew Muhammad bin Qasim. Muhammad bin Qasim just 17 years guy. So he attacked on Sindhu along with army. So you see in 712 in Rewar area, he defeated and killed Daher. That's why Muhammad bin Qasim attacked on Sindhu, killed Daher in Rewar war. So he occupied Sindhu. That's why the first Indian kingdom attacked and occupied by Muslims, that is Sindhu, by Muhammad bin Qasim. And then after capturing of Sindhu, he attacked on Multan. After capturing of Sindhu, he attacked on Multan. That is neighbor kingdom to Sindhu. Multan as the title, so many historians are used to call Golden City. That Multan is called Golden City. So it is also occupied by Muhammad bin Qasim. Both the areas, Sindhu and Multan, both the areas occupied by Muhammad bin Qasim. So here there was a complaint to Khalifa against Muhammad bin Qasim by Hindu women. Those who are staying in Sindhu and Multan, they have given complaint to Khalifa against Muhammad bin Qasim. What was the complaint? He is harassing us. He is harassing the Hindu ladies. So this is against to Quran, Islam. So Khalifa called back him and he killed Muhammad bin Qasim. Khalifa killed Muhammad bin Qasim. That's why, because of that reason, Muhammad bin Qasim was killed. But you see, for 100 years, just 100 years. For 100 years, the army which came along with Muhammad bin Qasim, that army settled in India only, in Sindh and Multan. They married a Hindu woman and they settled here. So, only up to 100 years that Muslim ruling was there, and after that it was closed. So, this is first attacking of Arabs. According to Suleiman, the historian, this is the victory without any results. This is an Arab victory without any result. But you see, within this 100 years, our Indian knowledge migrated to Arab. They have taken our Ayurvedic medical system. They have taken to Arab our Ayurvedic medical system, our mathematics, our Panchatantra, our chess game. Chess, the birthplace of chess is India. It has also taken to Arab. All the knowledge, medical knowledge, mathematical, Ayurvedic and chess, all these Panchatantra also, all these knowledge, all these books migrated to Arab. So, this is the victory without any result, that is Muhammad bin Qasim. Arab attacking. Yes, after Muhammad bin Qasim, one more attacker, one more invasion by Turk ruler, that is Muhammad Ghazni. So, Muhammad Ghazni, he belongs to Ghaznewad area. Ghaznewad area means it is in Central Asia. So, after Hindu Kush area, that is Central Asia, so he was the ruler of Ghaznewad area. So, he belongs to Yamani tribe. He belongs to Yamani tribe. So, he has given the title by Khalifa, that is Yaminud Dawla. He got the title by Yaminud Dawla. He has title by Khalifa, Yaminud Dawla. Yaminud Dawla means the Islamic, the kingdom of Islamic establisher. The kingdom of Islamic is established by Muhammad Ghazni. That's why, so Yaminud Dawla he has title. So, he wanted to attack on India as much as he wants to rob Indian kingdoms. That is the concept. But he has no interest to establish kingdom in India, just he wanted to rob. He wanted to rob the money, wealth of India, and he wants to develop Ghaznewad. That's why his forefathers, his grandfather was Alaptajin. He was ruler of Ghazni, Alaptajin. So, he was ruler of Alaptajin. So, he was a ruler of Ghaznewad, his grandfather, Muhammad Ghazni grandfather Alaptajin, and Sabaktajin, father of Muhammad Ghazni. After Sabaktajin, he became the ruler of Ghaznewad area. That's why he wanted to develop, so he attacked on India. So, from 1000 to 1027, in between 1000 to 1027, he attacked on India for 17 times. He attacked on India 17 times. From 1000 to 1027, he attacked on India 17 times. So, in that attackings, just you see, in the winter season only, he wants to attack on India. Because in winter season, there will be wheat crops. Wheat crops will be there. So, he wants to destroy the wheat crops also. That's why in winter season, he wants to attack on India. So, 17 times he attacked on India. But the important attacking of Ghazni, it is in 1026. In 1026. This is attacking on Somanath temple, Saurashtra. In 1026, he attacked on Somanath temple. Okay. He cut the Shivalinga as two parts. Somanath temple, it is in Saurashtra, Gujarat. He cut Shivalinga as two parts. Okay. So, in 1026, this is the most important attacking. The 16th attacking. Somnath temple attacking is 16th attacking of Ghazni. But unfortunately 1027 he was died. But anyhow, so Muhammad Ghazni, he was attacked on India and robbed Indian dynasties. He robbed so much wealth and he developed Ghaznewad area. But he is not misused the amounts. Just he invested on Ghaznewad area. He constructed buildings, education institutions like that. That's why Muhammad Ghazni used the money which is robbed from India, used for the good purpose and development of Ghaznewad. So this is Muhammad Ghazni. Now one more Turkish attacker, that is Muhammad Ghor, also called Muhammad Ghori. Okay, he was a ruler of Ghori area. Ghori area is in that Central Asia also. So this kingdom also in Central Asia. So he was ruler of Ghori, a small kingdom. He was ruling that area. So he wanted to attack on India and he wanted to capture India as much as he wants to establish Islamic dynasties in India. This is a concept. But you see, between Ghazni and Ghori, the ideological difference is there. What was ideological different? Ghazni only, he wanted to rob, he wanted to loot the Indian kingdoms. But he wants to establish Islamic system in India. Okay, that's why Muhammad Ghori, he wants to attack on India. So his first attacking started in 1175 on Multan. First attacking on Multan, so he defeated Multan. But in 1179, he was, Muhammad Ghori, he was defeated by Gujarat ruler, Waghela ruler, that is Mularaju, also Bhimaraju too. So Mularaju, Gujarat ruler, was defeated him. Okay, so first of all, Ghori was defeated by the Gujarat ruler Mularaju in 1179. But in his life, the most important war, that is in 1191, First Tarain War. In 1191, that is called First Tarain War. So this First Tarain War between Prithviraj Chauhan and Muhammad Ghori. 1191, the most important point also this is, we should remember. So 1191, there was the First Tarain War between Muhammad Ghori and Prithviraj Chauhan. Here, Muhammad Ghori is defeated by Prithviraj Chauhan. So in First Tarain War, Muhammad Ghori defeated by Prithviraj Chauhan. And in 1192, this is Second Tarain War. 1192, Second Tarain War. Here, Prithviraj Chauhan is defeated by Muhammad Ghori. Prithviraj Chauhan is defeated by Muhammad Ghori in Second Tarain War. These are the most important dates we should remember. 1191, First Tarain War. 1192, Second Tarain War. And in 1194, you see, in 1192, in Second Tarain War, Ghori, supported by Jayachandra, Gahdwala ruler, Kanauj capital, Gahdwala kingdom ruler, Jayachandra helped to Ghori. Because of his help, he defeated Prithviraj Chauhan in Second Tarain War. But in 1194, this is called Chanda War, Battle of Chanda War. Ghori defeated Jayachandra. In 1194, it is called Battle of Chanda War. Ghori defeated Jayachandra. So, because of 1191, 1192, 1194, First Tarain War, Second Tarain War, Chanda War, Battle of Chanda War. Okay. So, whenever he defeated the areas in India, he appointed as the governor, that is Qutbuddin Aibak. Qutbuddin Aibak is appointed as the governor of Delhi surrounding area. And his army chief, Bakhtiyar Khilji, he destroyed Hindu temples in India. He harassed Buddhist people, and they escaped to Nepal. Buddhist people escaped to Nepal because of these Bakhtiyar Khilji harassments. But anyhow, so in 1206, Muhammad Ghori is killed by the tribals, Kaggars. He was killed by Kaggars in 1206. So Muhammad Ghori died in 1206. Then whenever Muhammad Ghori is died, Qutbuddin Aibak announced himself independence in India. That's why from 1206 onwards it's called the ruling of Delhi Sultans. So in 1206, Mahmud Ghori is died. From 1206 onwards in India, Delhi Sultan's dynasty is started. So we have 5 kinds of Delhi Sultans, that is Slave, Khilji, Tughlaq, Sayyid and Lodi. From 1206 to 1526, this is the period of Delhi Sultans.